watching this video today. My name is Allison, and this is the first video I have filmed in over a year. So welcome to my YouTube channel. I haven't filmed any videos or anything in such a long time because I really wasn't sure whenever I first kind of created my YouTube channel what I wanted the focus to be or what I wanted to talk about, but I definitely know exactly where my passion lies, and you know, that is with nutrition and with diet. So if you love nutrition, if you love talking about nutrition and diet and all of that good stuff, definitely subscribe to the channel because I will be posting videos as often as I can on nutrition and diet and health and wellness related topics. And I'm actually, after 6 years of finishing college, I graduated in 2014. I'm now, this year, starting in the fall, going back to school to get my master's in nutrition, and with my ultimate goal being a registered dietitian. So I'm an aspiring dietitian. With that being said, these videos are by no means, they're only for entertainment, and it's basically just me kind of sharing with you, with the world, my opinion on a lot of different nutrition and diet related topics. But because I'm not a professional just yet, I'm always kind of afraid that, nobody will really think that my opinions are, something they should take into consideration, or they might just think that I'm, just giving out information that I don't 100% know is correct or true. I recently had a really good friend tell me that they were on a health and fitness journey, and they were starting all of this wonderful healthy fitness lifestyle out by intermittent fasting, and with the main goal of losing weight. It put me in a weird position because I want to say what I believe, and I want to kind of give my opinion on it, but I'm not, I kind of don't really feel like it's my place necessarily when it's a friend. I don't want them to think that I'm, kind of criticizing them or telling them what they're doing is wrong. And so I didn't even really feel like it was my place to give my... Sorry, my phone totally just died. Well, my phone didn't die, but I had to go and delete all kinds of stuff from my phone because apparently I have no memory. But anyways, okay, back into the topic. So I guess we can just, I'm sure by this point, intermittent fasting is really popular. I'm sure you know what it is, but just in case if you're watching this video and you don't, there's different types of intermittent fasting. There's, kind of the type of fasting that's called 16-8, where you fast for at least 16 hours of the day, and you give yourself an 8-hour window of the day to eat. And actually, doing some research for this video, I realized that there's different types of intermittent fasting. There's some more severe types, or I would consider them more severe, just because they're more intense. There's another type where you, I guess out of the week, there's 5 days out of the week where you eat normal, you eat like you normally would, and then 2 days out of the week, you either, for women, restrict your calories to 500 calories, for men, I think it's 600, or you just don't eat. So for 24 hours, you just either don't eat or only eat 500 or 600 calories, and then the rest of the week, you just eat normal. Okay, but anyways, I guess I never really realized those types existed, but I guess they just irritated me to read about, but yeah, so that's basically what it is. But it's super popular. Tons of people are doing it. And I think that there's a lot of reasons why people kind of turn to intermittent fasting or decide to try it out. Number one is that unlike other types of diets, there's no type of dietary restrictions on what you can and cannot eat. So, you're not cutting out any food groups. You can basically kind of eat whatever you want as long as it's in that window of time that you allow yourself to eat. And that's really appealing to a lot of people, especially people who restrict a lot of different types of foods from their diets that they normally love to eat. Of course, they're going to want to try a diet where you can pretty much eat anything. The next point, it's kind of controversial. I'm definitely guilty of having these thoughts, but I do think it's a reason why people like or think that they're progressing on intermittent fasting is, whenever you're on a fast or when you don't eat for an extended period of time, that emptiness feeling or that really hungry feeling or that feeling of control, like you controlled yourself enough to not eat, to fight through your hunger and say no to food even though you were hungry, that emptiness kind of feeling, it can definitely make you feel like you're doing it right, like you are losing weight, you are doing this the right way. You controlled yourself, you controlled your hunger. And I definitely think that's an issue or a contributing factor to the fasting kind of mentality. And also, and this is this is something that's crazy, and it's really true. But you see health experts and doctors all over the internet. Just type it into YouTube or type it into Google, and you will find so many credible sources of doctors, physicians, people promoting it and saying it has all these health benefits, not just weight loss, but increased brain function, reduction in inflammation throughout the body, even longevity of your life. These are things that doctors, health experts are saying that intermittent fasting does. So of course, if you see all of this wonderful praise about a certain diet or lifestyle, you're going to believe it. It's really enticing. I believed it whenever I first saw some videos about fasting. The number one reason is because of the weight loss. There's a lot of success in weight loss. People are really losing weight doing intermittent fasting, and they show the testimonials online. You can see it. If you go online, you can see the before and after photos. There's just so many people that have had success with it. Why? If I don't really believe in intermittent fasting, which I don't, I guess I don't know if I've made that clear or not. I really don't think that intermittent fasting is the best route to take when trying to lose weight, for many reasons. I guess kind of what I should first talk about is why are people seeing this success? Why are people losing weight? And I think the number one reason for this is the caloric deficit that you are putting yourself in whenever you restrict the times of the day in which you're eating to such a small window. And this really only applies for people who needed a caloric deficit in general, or who had a good amount of weight that they really needed to lose to begin with. So basically any type of caloric restriction in any way, shape, or form is going to promote weight loss, right? So I think that initially somebody who is eating a large amount of food or a lot of calories throughout the day, whenever they first start to restrict that in any way, not just the time of the day, but if they cut out certain food groups, or if they're just making any type of caloric deficit in their diet, they're going to lose weight. That's just kind of how it goes. A lot of times the intermittent fasting is coupled with the keto diet, and in that case you are using up all of your body's glucose, right? Because keto diets, they are pretty much zero carb diets. Along with using up all of your body's glucose, you're also losing a lot of water. In a sense, it's dehydration. So you're definitely going to be losing weight in the beginning. I definitely don't believe in the whole, periods of fasting if you're hungry, and, having one large meal or two large meals a day. I actually think that that is one of the worst things you can do for your body and for your metabolism. My number one problem with fasting is that I believe it can really lead to binging, and I think it kind of promotes binging. I don't think this is the case for everybody who does intermittent fasting by any means. I'm sure that there are definitely people who can control their portions, the 8 hours or the days, that they're eating. But I think at least whenever I would try fasting, I was very much more likely to binge during the time that I allowed myself to eat. Because you have this mentality of, this is the only time I can eat. I have to eat everything. I have to eat everything in sight, or I have to eat everything I want to eat because I'm going to be depriving myself of the chance to eat at a later time when I might be hungry. So I think that it's really easy to binge doing this. And, there's a lot of problems that can come with binging. I absolutely think it is probably one of the number one ways to make sure you gain weight is to binge. Overeating and binging is probably even more so than what you're eating, but the amount that you're eating is worse than if you're just letting yourself eat whatever. It's damaging to your metabolism whenever you go through these periods of time, especially, like months of fasting every day. Your body begins to not trust you, right? So anything that you eat at that point, your body's going to hold on to. It's not going to want to metabolize it. What it's going to do instead is it's going to say, I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to eat. I don't know whenever I'm going to be getting nourishment again. So I'm going to store these calories, this fat, these carbs. I'm going to store it as fat in case this happens again, which I'm pretty sure it's going to, because you've been doing this every day for how long? So your body begins to realize that this is kind of how things are, and it adapts. It adapts to your lifestyle and the way that you're treating your body. That's a way to keep on weight. That's probably the biggest problem, I think, with intermittent fasting. It makes your body hold on to weight. You want your body to be a fat-burning machine. That's what you want. Intermittent fasting, in my opinion, it does not promote that at all. I absolutely believe in small, frequent eating throughout the day. I believe that is the best type of diet. There's a few kind of things that I experienced that made me really realize that this is something I believe in. Basically, which is to just eat when you're hungry, no matter what time of the day it is, no matter how long it's been since you last ate. If you're hungry, honor your hunger and eat, but don't eat too much. Eat until you're satisfied, not even until you're full. Eat till you're satisfied. Wait a little bit, and by a little bit, I mean that can even be 10, 15 minutes. And if you're hungry still, then eat again, and keep doing it throughout the day. Or at least, until you feel good and you feel like you don't need to constantly be thinking about food. Whenever I was doing some shadowing experience with some registered dietitians for to get hours for my grad school application, it was at a Children's Heart Center, right? So these dietitians, they sat down with pre-diabetic children, or children who are a little bit overweight, and they noticed that they might need some coaching in diet and nutrition, and not even just for the kids, because they're kids, but for their parents as well. And we were in a room with a female who was in middle school and her mother, and she was explaining to the dietitian that she doesn't eat for most of the day. She skips breakfast, and at school she skips lunch. She doesn't eat anything during the day at all until she gets home from school. And then at that point, she binges. She goes crazy. She eats everything in the pantry, her mother was saying that she just, she eats like 2 or 3 servings of dinner. And the dietitian was telling her, this is why, because they initially were saying they don't know why she's gaining weight. She doesn't eat pretty much the whole day. Why is she so big? And the dietitian's telling them that's the reason why. You're going all day without eating anything. You're starving yourself. So that at the end of the day, you're basically just binging and eating everything that you can until, you make yourself uncomfortably full. And, kind of just like how I was talking about earlier, then at that point, your body is going to hold on to all of it because it's afraid that same thing is going to happen tomorrow. So it's not going to even burn any of it off as energy. It's going to probably store it as fat to use for tomorrow whenever you don't eat again. She basically told them, she said, this is how things are. There can be 2 people. One person, eats 1 meal a day, 1,000 calorie meal per day. And there can be another person who eats 2,000, 2,500 calories a day, but all throughout the day, in little amounts throughout the day. And that person will be leaner than the person who eats 1,000 calorie meal a day. And she was explaining, why that is. She was explaining, a lot of dietitians kind of use the rule where, your meal should be able to fit like this in your hands. This is every time you eat, it really should not be bigger than this. And that's because that's pretty much how big our stomachs are. We don't really have huge stomachs. I mean, I guess some people's are bigger than others, but for the most part, this is a good rule of thumb. And it's crazy because to most people, this really seems like nothing at all. I'm sure that you who, would maybe think that's crazy. I can eat like 2 or 3 times as much as that. But that's because, that's what we're used to. We're used to eating really large portions of things. And, basically, our digestion is not as fast as the way that we eat. Your stomach takes time to digest your food. Your digestive tract, it takes time to digest your food. It takes time for your stomach to tell your brain you're full and that you don't need any more food. A lot of people eat really fast, right? So that's probably a huge reason why we overeat. But, we also tell ourselves that we can't eat until another however many hours away, or, we try to restrict the time in which we eat, which makes us in that sitting want to eat more food because we're afraid we're not going to be able to eat again for however long. Once your stomach has filled up on this amount of food, what happens to the rest of the food? What happens to the other part of the meal that you ate? Your body, if it doesn't need it immediately, if it doesn't need the calories, the energy, the fuel, it's going to store it as fat. So that is why I think that binging or overeating is so, detrimental, especially if you're trying to lose weight, because, your body's going to use the small amount of fuel that it needs in that moment. And then the rest of it's going to be stored as fat. So, having 1 or 2 huge meals throughout the day, you're going to be really hungry, especially if you've been fasting and kind of depriving yourself and kind of fighting through that hunger to make yourself not eat. It's going to be taking the amount that it needs for energy, and then it's going to be storing the rest. So whenever you eat smaller, more frequent meals throughout the day, as long as they're a good size, you'll eat it. Your body is going to use it. It's going to burn the calories. It's going to use the fuel, and you're not going to feel the discomfort, right? You're going to feel good. We should feel good after we eat. We shouldn't feel bloated or overstuffed or tired or sleepy. Those are all symptoms of overeating. That experience with the dietitians and being with their patients really kind of helped me change my mind and my perspective on fasting. So yeah, that kind of summarizes a lot of my opinions on fasting. I'm sure there are some points I forgot to make. There's one time of the day where I do think it might be important to kind of watch how much, what you eat, or, in regards to the time. And that would just be right before you go to bed. Don't eat large amounts. 1 or 2 hours before you go to bed, just, because this kind of increases your risk of having some heartburn, not being able to go to sleep because of that, or going and having to get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. Yeah, that might be the only time of the day that I would kind of maybe be like, you might want to wait and not really eat, and that's just at the end of the day, right before you go to sleep. But, in the end, I just don't think intermittent fasting is sustainable long term. I just think it's kind of a way to get yourself and your body used to overeating, possibly. I think it, can damage your metabolism and also maybe even lead to a plateau of weight loss, because in that initial part of losing weight where you're just losing the weight you needed to lose in general, if you're a person who needed to lose weight anyway, you're going to hit a plateau and you might not dip under that plateau because your metabolism is damaged. And but the thing is that it's okay, because metabolism, you can always get that back. You can always change that. Our bodies are definitely wonderful in that way. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my opinion on intermittent fasting. I definitely want to make more videos relating to nutrition and diet and all of that. So I really hope that if nutrition and diet and health and mommy stuff is all things that you like, then, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you in another video. Thanks. Bye.